You know, in life we're often told to be nice, to be friendly, to always be available for everyone around us. And while kindness is beautiful, there is a dangerous side to being too available. Let me tell you something very real. People rarely respect what comes to them too easily. Think about it. When you give away your time, your energy, your presence without boundaries, people begin to assume it has no value. And soon, instead of gratitude, what you receive in return is taken for granted behavior. Not because they are bad people, but because you have unknowingly trained them to see you as someone who will always be there, no matter what. The truth is, life doesn't reward overavailability, it rewards value. Diamonds are valuable because they're rare. Time is precious because it's limited, and you are worthy because you bring something unique to this world. But when you act like you're on sale, when you act like your presence has no conditions, people will treat you like a discount. You need to understand that protecting your boundaries is not arrogance, it's self-respect. Respect is earned when people realize your time is not for everyone, your energy is not for everything, and your love is not for those who don't value it. Stop saying yes to everything. Stop laughing at jokes that hurt you. Stop being silent when people cross the line. Stop showing up for people who never show up for you. Because when you set limits, when you decide to be selective with your time and your kindness, you don't become cold. You become powerful, and let me remind you, you don't need everyone to like you. You don't need to be everyone's best friend. You don't need to be available 24/7 to prove your worth. What you need is respect, and respect is born when people realize that access to you is not free, it's earned. So stop being too friendly if it costs you your dignity. Stop being too available if it makes people take you for granted, and stop shrinking yourself just to be accepted. Value yourself first, and the world will have no choice but to value you too. People don't respect what's easily available. Value comes from rarity and boundaries. Think for a moment about the things in life that you truly cherish. They are never the things you could get at any time, in any place, without any effort. They are the experiences you had to fight for, the people you had to earn, the victories that demanded your sweat, your tears, and your patience. The truth is simple. When something is easily accessible, when it requires no effort, when it demands no sacrifice, it begins to lose its shine. Human psychology is wired this way. We crave challenge, we admire what is scarce, we respect what is not available to everyone. That is why the rare becomes priceless, while the common becomes ignored when you make yourself too available to everyone. When your presence, your kindness, your time is offered without boundaries, you strip away your own sense of value. You may believe you are being kind, you may believe you are being generous, but in the eyes of others it slowly translates into something else. It becomes an expectation, not a gift, and the moment something becomes an expectation, the respect attached to it fades. People stop seeing your time as special, your words as meaningful, your support as powerful. They start assuming you will always be there, no matter how little effort they put in, no matter how they treat you. And once you reach that point, you will realize that being too easily available was never kindness, it was self. Betrayal value is born in limitation. Look at the rarest gems in the world, the diamonds buried deep in the earth, the artworks that only a few possess, the opportunities that only a handful can grasp. They hold power because they are not within everyone's reach. They require patience, pursuit, and persistence. In the same way, when you create boundaries around your time, your energy, and your presence, you teach others that you are not just another option in their life. You are not a background noise that can be ignored. You are a priority, and priorities are never taken lightly. Boundaries are not walls that push people away. They are doors that require intention and effort to open. And when people put in that effort, that is where respect begins. Too many of us confuse availability with love, thinking that if we are always there, people will always value us, but the opposite is true. The more you say yes to everything, the less your yes is worth. The more you give without pause, the less your giving is cherished. Think of the sun. It rises every day, and most of us take it for granted. But when there is a storm, when there is a night too long, when light is absent, suddenly the sun is missed, suddenly its value is felt. Do not let yourself become like the sun in people's lives, taken for granted simply because you never set. Allow people to miss you, allow people to earn you, allow people to realize that your presence is not guaranteed. The irony of life is that distance often creates closeness. Scarcity creates appreciation. When you are not always available, when you are not always the first one to answer, the first one to show up, the first one to forgive, people start to pause. They start to think. They start to realize your worth. It is not cruelty to create space, it is wisdom. It is not selfish to demand effort, it is strength. By setting boundaries, you are not pushing people away, you are showing them how to treat you. And when they learn that, they will value you more deeply, more honestly, more respectfully. If you reflect on the people you admire most, you will notice something striking. They are not the ones who said yes to everything. They are not the ones who sacrificed their dignity just to be liked. They are the ones who carried themselves with a sense of self-worth, who had the courage to say no, who demanded respect before giving access. That is why they are remembered, that is why they are followed, that is why their presence carries weight. They understand that boundaries are not barriers, they are definitions of value. Without boundaries, value gets diluted. With boundaries, value becomes undeniable, and so the lesson is clear. If you want people to respect you, if you want people to recognize your worth, you must first recognize it yourself. You must learn that not everyone deserves unlimited access to your energy. You must understand that not every situation requires your immediate response. You must remind yourself that saying no is sometimes the most powerful way of saying yes to your peace, to your dignity, to your self-respect. People don't respect what's easily available because easy things are forgettable. Rare things are unforgettable, and your worth, your time, your love should never be forgettable. Overavailability trains others to take you for granted. Every relationship, whether personal or professional, is shaped by the signals you send. The way you present yourself, the way you respond, the way you give access to your time and energy. All of these things teach people how to treat you. When you are always available, always ready, always saying yes without hesitation, you are unconsciously teaching people that your presence requires no effort. You are teaching them that you will always be there, whether they value you or not, whether they show appreciation or not, whether they give you respect or not. And once people learn that, they no longer see your efforts as generosity, they see them as duty. They no longer recognize your sacrifices as gifts, they see them as obligations. That is how overavailability slowly drains away respect and turns you into an afterthought rather than a priority. Think of it like this. When you constantly drop everything for others, you are not only devaluing yourself, you are setting a dangerous precedent. People begin to expect it. They no longer feel the need to put effort into the relationship because why should they? You will do the heavy lifting. You will always show up. You will always forgive. You will always make time. And once they grow used to that, their appreciation fades because appreciation only lives where there is effort. If there is no effort required, there is no gratitude offered. Overavailability trains others to assume you don't have boundaries. And when people believe you have no boundaries, they stop respecting where the line should be drawn. Relationships thrive on balance. If one person gives too much, the other unconsciously learns to give less. If one person is always available, the other unconsciously assumes they don't have to try as hard. That imbalance is subtle at first, but over time it builds resentment inside you and entitlement inside them. You feel drained, unappreciated, invisible. They feel comfortable, careless, entitled. This is not because they are necessarily unkind, but because human behavior adapts to what is given freely. When water is flowing endlessly, people waste it. When it is limited, they conserve it. Your availability is no different. When it's endless, it's misused. When it's limited, it's valued. Overavailability also destroys mystery. And mystery is not about playing games, it is about preserving dignity. When you are always at someone's call, when you respond instantly, when you never let there be space, you erase the sense of anticipation that makes human connection so powerful. People crave what they have to wait for, what they have to earn, what they are not sure they can get. Overavailability robs you of that. It makes you predictable, it makes you ordinary, it makes you fade into the background of their life. By contrast, when you set boundaries, when you are not always reachable, when you take time for yourself, you become someone who is sought after, someone who is missed, someone who is valued. The cost of overavailability is not just external, it is also internal. When you constantly say yes, when you constantly stretch yourself thin, you begin to lose sight of your own worth. You start to believe that your value comes only from serving others, from being present for everyone, from never saying no. Slowly, you forget that your time is precious, that your energy is finite, that your presence is special. And when you forget it, how can you expect others to remember it? The way you treat yourself is the ultimate instruction manual for how others will treat you. If you don't respect your own boundaries, no one else will. If you don't honor your own time, no one else will. If you don't value your own presence, no one else will. Overavailability is also dangerous because it attracts the wrong people. When you are always available, you become a magnet for takers. People who are looking for shortcuts, people who want everything without effort, people who are comfortable taking advantage. They see your endless yes as an invitation to give less, to care less, to respect less. On the other hand, when you set boundaries, you filter people. The ones who only wanted to use you will leave. The ones who truly value you will stay. Boundaries are the sieve through which fake relationships fall away, leaving only the genuine ones behind. Without boundaries, you will never know who truly respects you and who is only there for convenience. Overavailability also steals your time from yourself. Every time you say yes to something you don't want, you are saying no to something you do want. Every time you prioritize someone else's comfort, you are sacrificing your own. Every time you allow yourself to be taken for granted, you are quietly telling yourself that your needs are less important. And when you live like that long enough, you lose yourself. You forget what you wanted, what you dreamed of, what you stood for. You become an accessory in other people's lives instead of the main character in your own. Life is too short to be lived that way. Your time should be spent on things that make you grow, on people who respect you, on dreams that excite you, not on endless availability that leaves you empty. The irony is, when you stop being overavailable, you don't lose people, you gain respect. You gain admiration, you gain presence, because suddenly you don't need everyone to like you, you need people to respect you. One of the greatest illusions that holds people back is the belief that universal approval is the ultimate measure of success. From childhood, we are conditioned to seek validation, to be accepted, to be liked by teachers, peers, friends, and family. But as you grow, you begin to realize that being liked by everyone is not only impossible, it is also unnecessary. In fact, when you make it your mission to please everyone, you lose the very essence of who you are. You bend, you compromise, you dilute your personality until you become a shadow of yourself. And even then, there will still be people who don't like you. Chasing approval is a race with no finish line, and the more you run it, the further away you drift from self-respect. Respect, on the other hand, is built on authenticity. People may not always like you, but if you are honest, consistent, and firm in your values, they will respect you. Respect means that even those who disagree with you will acknowledge your strength, your courage, your integrity. Respect means that your presence carries weight, that your words are not dismissed, that your boundaries are not ignored. Respect lasts long after temporary approval fades. Think of history's greatest figures. Many of them were criticized, disliked, even hated in their time, but they were respected because they stood for something greater than popularity. They refuse to betray their own truth for the comfort of fitting in. When you seek to be liked, you give away your power. You become dependent on the ever-changing moods and opinions of others. If they smile, you feel validated. If they criticize, you feel broken. Your sense of worth becomes fragile, hanging by the thread of external acceptance. But when you shift your focus from being liked to being respected, everything changes. Respect is not given lightly, and once earned, it is not easily taken away. It does not fluctuate with gossip. It does not vanish with small disagreements. It does not crumble with momentary disapproval. Respect is built on the foundation of how you carry yourself, how you honor your word, how you stand by your principles, and how you treat others with dignity while still protecting your own. Trying to be liked forces you into compromise after compromise. You say yes when you mean no. You laugh when you want to stay silent. You shrink when you want to stand tall. You allow people to walk over you because you are afraid that saying no will make them dislike you. But the reality is that people respect those who are clear, not those who are agreeable at all costs. They respect those who stand firm, not those who bend at every wind. When you choose respect over likability, you begin to make decisions from a place of strength rather than fear. You begin to surround yourself with people who value you for who you truly are, not for the version of yourself you created to win their approval. There will always be people who misunderstand you, judge you, or dislike you. No matter how kind you are, no matter how generous you are, no matter how available you are, someone will always find fault, and that's okay. The problem is not being disliked. The problem is sacrificing your identity trying to prevent it. Imagine living your entire life trying to satisfy the expectations of others, only to realize that their opinions were never stable, never permanent, never truly about you in the first place. People's judgments are reflections of their own fears, biases, and limitations. You cannot control them, but you can control how much power you give them over your own peace of mind. Seeking respect means letting go of the desperate need to control how others see you and focusing instead on how you see yourself. Respect also transforms the quality of your relationships. When you aim for approval, you attract people who are comfortable with taking advantage of you, people who enjoy your endless yes, people who value you only when you serve their needs. But when you build respect, you filter out those who cannot handle your boundaries. The ones who remain are the ones who truly value your presence, your time, and your authenticity. These are the relationships that last because they are not built on superficial charm, but on mutual admiration and understanding. Respect creates depth. While likability often creates shallowness, it is also important to realize that respect requires effort. Unlike being liked, which often comes from pleasing others, respect comes from consistency. You cannot demand it overnight. You must show through your actions that your word means something, that your boundaries are real, that your principles are not for sale. People may not like your decisions, they may not always agree with your methods, but over time they will respect the firmness with which you stand by them. And respect earned this way will follow you wherever you go. It will open doors, it will create opportunities. It will protect your reputation long after the temporary smiles of approval have faded. The pursuit of being liked often feels safe because it avoids conflict. But conflict is not always a bad thing. Sometimes disagreement is the sign that you are standing for something meaningful. Sometimes disapproval is proof that you are on the right path. If everyone likes you, it usually means you are not challenging anyone, not pushing any boundaries, not daring to be yourself fully. Respect, however, often comes with friction. It comes when you refuse to compromise your dignity for the sake of peace. It comes when you take the harder road instead of the easier one. It comes when you are willing to lose temporary approval for the sake of long-term honor. When you live for respect, you stop being afraid of rejection. You stop trying to measure your worth in applause or attention. You start living with a deeper sense of freedom, because your compass is no longer external approval, but internal truth. You walk into rooms differently, you speak differently, you carry yourself differently, because you know you don't have to be liked by everyone. You only need to be respected by the right people, and respected by yourself most of all. That inner respect creates an aura, a presence, a strength that no amount of shallow likability can ever replace. Protecting your time and energy is not arrogance, it's self-respect. Too often people confuse boundaries with ego, distance with pride, and self-prioritization with selfishness. The reality is that your time is the most valuable currency you will ever own. And your energy is the fuel that drives everything you will ever create, experience, and accomplish. If you allow people to drain both without thought, you are not being kind, you are being careless with the most precious parts of your life. Every hour you give away is an hour you will never get back, and every ounce of energy you spend in the wrong place is energy you will never recover. Respecting yourself means understanding this truth and living in a way that honors it. The world often celebrates selflessness as if giving endlessly is the ultimate sign of virtue, but what is rarely spoken about is the damage that comes with unchecked giving. If you are always available, if you are always saying yes, if you are always carrying the weight of others, eventually your own strength begins to collapse, you burn out, you grow resentful, and you lose touch with your own needs. This is not noble, this is destructive. True generosity can only exist when it comes from a place of fullness, not exhaustion. To give endlessly without boundaries is like pouring from an empty cup. At some point there is nothing left, and even the people you were trying to serve end up with less than they deserve. Protecting your time and energy is an act of clarity. It is knowing what matters most to you and refusing to waste yourself on what does not. It is saying no without guilt, because you understand that every yes you give to the wrong thing steals space from the right thing. It is stepping back from people who only take, not because you are bitter, but because you respect yourself enough not to be used. It is choosing rest when the world demands hustle, not because you are lazy, but because you know your health and peace of mind are non-negotiable. It is showing up fully where you are needed most. Rather than scattering yourself thin where you make no difference at all, there is a common fear that if you set boundaries, people will think you are arrogant or unkind. But boundaries are not walls, they are guidelines. They are the markers that say, this is where I end and where you begin. They are the rules that protect your inner world from chaos. Without them, you invite disrespect, neglect, and imbalance. With them, you create space for healthier relationships, for deeper focus, and for stronger self-esteem. The people who truly care for you will never see your boundaries as arrogance. They will see them as strength. It is only those who benefit from your lack of boundaries who will complain when you finally build them. Protecting your time and energy also allows you to invest in your own growth. Every moment you save from distractions becomes a moment you can use to build your dreams. Every ounce of energy you reclaim from toxic people becomes power you can use to shape your future. Imagine what happens when you stop wasting yourself on things that drain you and start channeling that same effort into things that uplift you. Your creativity flourishes, your confidence grows, your productivity multiplies, and your sense of purpose becomes sharper. This is not arrogance, it is alignment. It is choosing to live intentionally rather than reactively, to build rather than to scatter, to rise rather than to crumble. Think of the people who inspire you most. They are not the ones who said yes to everything, who sacrificed themselves for every demand, who spread themselves so thin that they disappeared. They are the ones who knew when to say no, who valued their time enough to protect it fiercely, who guarded their energy so they could use it where it mattered most. They are admired not because they gave themselves away to everyone, but because they invested themselves wisely and left an impact. Protecting your time and energy does not make you arrogant, it makes you effective. It ensures that when you do show up, you show up with power, with presence, and with purpose. There is also freedom in knowing that you do not need to justify your boundaries to everyone. You don't need to explain why you didn't answer a call at midnight, why you didn't attend every gathering, why you didn't say yes to every request. Your time is yours, your energy is yours. Protecting them is not up for debate. The people who respect you will accept this without question. The people who don't were never truly respecting you in the first place. They were only respecting what they could extract from you. Protecting your time and energy acts as a filter. It separates those who genuinely value you from those who only value what you can do for them. Another important truth is that protecting your time and energy also protects your identity. When you allow everyone to pull you in different directions, you begin to lose sight of who you are. You become shaped by their demands, their needs, their opinions, until your own desires are drowned out. But when you create space for yourself, when you draw lines around your energy, you give yourself the room to hear your own voice again. You reconnect with your passions, your goals, your values. You start to live as yourself, not as a reflection of what others want from you. That is not arrogance, that is authenticity. And authenticity is the highest form of self-respect. Protecting your time and energy is also the foundation of true resilience. Life will always test you with endless noise, with distractions, with people and situations that pull you away from what really matters. If you do not learn to guard your focus, you will always feel scattered and drained. But if you learn to prioritize, if you learn to say no firmly, if you learn to step back when you need to recharge, you become stronger, sharper, and more centered. You are no longer tossed around by every demand. You are steady, you are clear, and you are in control. That steadiness commands respect from others, because people can see that you are not someone who can be manipulated, rushed, or drained at will in the end. Protecting your time and energy is about honoring yourself enough to live with intention. It is about understanding that your worth is not measured by how much of yourself you give away, but by how wisely you choose where to give. It is about realizing that you are not here to be available to everyone at every moment. For every request, you are here to live fully, to grow deeply, to love intentionally, and to leave behind something that matters. When you value yourself first, the world learns to value you too. Every single person you meet will take cues from how you treat yourself. If you walk into a room with your head down, apologizing for existing, people will treat you as if your presence has little weight. But if you walk into a room with confidence, with clarity, with dignity, people will mirror that energy back to you. The way you view yourself sets the standard for how others view you. The problem is, most people wait for others to value them before they value themselves, not realizing that it always starts from within. If you do not believe in your own worth, you leave the door open for others to question it too. Valuing yourself is not about arrogance. It is about acknowledgement. It is about recognizing that your time is important, your feelings matter, and your dreams deserve space. Too often people shrink themselves because they fear being called selfish, or they put themselves last because they think that is what love looks like. But love without self-value quickly turns into sacrifice without balance. You cannot expect others to prioritize you if you are constantly treating yourself as the least important part of your own life. Self-value teaches others how to treat you. It tells them what is acceptable, what is not, what you will allow, and what you will never tolerate. Consider the way people respect limited resources. A rare painting is kept behind glass, guarded and treasured. A diamond is placed carefully in velvet, admired with reverence. Even water, when scarce, is handled with care. Why is it that you, as a human being with talents, dreams, and depth, would treat yourself as if you are endlessly replaceable? When you give yourself away too easily, when you accept less than you deserve, when you silence your own voice to keep peace, you are telling the world that you are common. But when you value yourself, when you set boundaries, when you demand respect in the way you carry yourself, you begin to shine differently. People notice. People respond. People learn that you are not to be handled carelessly. Valuing yourself also changes the way you make decisions. Instead of chasing approval, you start chasing alignment. Instead of saying yes to please others, you say yes because it honors your own values. Instead of accepting mistreatment, you walk away because you know you deserve better. This shift may seem small, but it changes everything. It transforms your relationships, your career, and your sense of peace. People may resist at first, especially if they were used to your lack of boundaries, but over time even they will begin to understand that you are serious about your worth. And once they understand it, they either rise to meet your standard or they fall away. Either outcome is a victory, because both lead to a life with more respect. The truth is, you teach people how to treat you every single day. If you accept disrespect in silence, you are telling them it is acceptable. If you settle for less, you are telling them they do not need to give you their best. If you let them cross your boundaries without consequence, you are telling them your boundaries do not exist. But when you stand firm, when you speak up, when you enforce the standards you set, you show them that yourself, you is real. People do not always give respect because it is deserved. They give respect because it is demanded. And the first demand comes not from your voice, but from the way you live and the way you carry yourself. Valuing yourself also gives you freedom from comparison. When you do not see your own worth, you constantly measure yourself against others. You compare your looks, your success, your opportunities, your path. And in that comparison, you always come up short, because there will always be someone ahead of you in some area. But when you truly value yourself, you stop comparing. You understand that your worth is not dependent on where you stand in relation to someone else, but on the unique value you bring simply by being who you are. This shift is powerful because people respect those who are rooted in themselves, not those who chase shadows trying to outshine everyone else. There is also strength in valuing yourself during failure. When you make mistakes, when things fall apart, when people walk away, it becomes easy to believe that your worth has diminished. But if you have cultivated self-value, you understand that failure does not define you, it refines you. You know that your worth is not tied to temporary outcomes, but to your deeper essence. And when you hold that belief, the world mirrors it. Instead of seeing you as broken, they see you as resilient. Instead of treating you as fragile, they treat you as strong. Self-value does not prevent pain, but it ensures that even in pain, you are respected. Valuing yourself first also attracts the right kind of people into your life. When you see yourself as worthy, you stop tolerating toxic behavior. You stop entertaining those who drain you. You stop settling for relationships that keep you small. And as you release those connections, you create space for people who recognize your worth and treat you with care. It is not magic, it is alignment, like attracts like. When you treat yourself with value, you naturally draw in those who value you too. This is why some people, even in silence, command respect the moment they enter a room. Their self-value radiates before they even speak. The misconception many have is that self-value will push people away, that it will isolate you. But in reality, the opposite is true. Self-value creates deeper, healthier connections because it eliminates the false ones. It removes those who only stayed because they could take advantage, and it leaves behind those who are willing to meet you with respect, effort, and authenticity. The relationships that remain are stronger because they are built not on convenience, but on true recognition of worth. And nothing is more fulfilling than being surrounded by people who treat you with the same value you give yourself. Valuing yourself first also impacts the opportunities you attract. When you see yourself as valuable, you negotiate differently, you dream differently, you move differently. You don't accept less pay than you deserve, you don't accept roles that do not align with your goals, you don't beg for recognition because you know your work speaks for itself. The world responds to that energy. Employers notice it, partners notice it, strangers notice it. The opportunities that come to you begin to align with the level at which you see yourself. If you see yourself as small, the world will offer you small things. If you see yourself as significant, the world will rise to match it. Valuing yourself first is the foundation of every kind of success. It is not selfish, it is survival. It is not arrogance, it is alignment with the truth of who you are. It is the silent standard that tells the world what is possible and what is not in your life. People will always test your limits, not out of malice, but because that is human nature. The question is whether you have taught them where the line is drawn. And the only way to teach them is to value yourself first, consistently, unapologetically, and visibly.